Hey there. So here's the deal. If you were drawn to this video, there's a good chance that you are one of, if not the only, generational healers in your family, which is a pretty big deal, but it also can be very emotional and very taxing. So I thought we would lighten it up a little bit by talking about it through the lens of Disney's Encanto. This is my series I call Movies with a Message, where I talk about different personal growth and spirituality subjects through the lens of some of my favorite movies. When I think back to the beginning of my personal transformation journey, if someone would have explained it to me like this, I would have had a much better time. Okay, so some brief background information. The Madrigals are Encanto's most influential family. They're all known to have a special magical gift that they use to serve their family and their community. And they make sure to tell us this through the only Madrigal who does not have a gift. Her name is Mirabel, and they drop us into the story on the day of her younger cousin Antonio's ceremony, where he's supposed to receive his gift in front of the whole town. But because the last ceremony was Mirabel's and she did not receive a gift, the tension is extra high. And it's high because today's the day that the family learns whether the magic is just running out or if Mirabel is the only one that did not receive one. Spoiler, it was just her, leaving her to wonder what made her unworthy of having a gift. So how does this relate to you as the generational healer of your family? You might still resonate with other characters and their gifts, but there's a large part of you that resonates with Mirabel, where you can feel the weight of expectations put on you by your family and society, but for some reason you cannot shake the feeling that you are the odd man out, that you're just kind of standing on the sidelines while everyone else seems to be thriving. Like Mirabel, you might feel like you're ready for more, but you just can't figure out how to get there. For example, you feel like you're the one in your family that wants to earn more money than your family's ever seen. Or you want to be the first one that has a marriage that doesn't end in divorce. It's going to be different from family to family, but the overarching feeling is that that want, need, or desire that you have is going to make you feel like the odd one out. So what do you do when you have that feeling, but you're not sure what to do next? Well, you do what Mirabel does. You opt in. So after the ceremony where Antonio receives his gift, Mirabel sings her song, Waiting on a Miracle, where the lyrics are what I like to think are her initiation into her gift. It's kind of counterintuitive if you think about it, because the song's called Waiting on a Miracle, but all the lyrics are about how she wants to stop waiting and how she's ready to take action. Incidents? I don't think so. But the lyrics in this song are what I like to think are her initiation into her actual gift. But she couldn't have access to it as a child because it probably would have been extremely overwhelming. In my opinion, Mirabel's gift is energy transmutation. And if you're the generational healer in your family, it's probably one of your special gifts as well. And I think Mirabel's gift is very similar to Abuela's gift, but also very different. But we'll get into that later. Don't worry. You're going to agree with me by the end of this. And if you don't, just leave a comment below saying that I'm way off base. So if you know a little bit of science and a little bit of spirituality, you'll know that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. See, Mom and Dad? I'm putting that electrical engineering degree to use still. Someone's emotions are the energy of the self, but in motion. If we apply that to generational trauma, the person who is the generational healer, the energy transmuter, has to take those emotions that have been stuck in the family line and actively turn them into energy that can be used to move their own family forward. Let's just take an example. If you had a family trauma where it resulted in a lack of resources, your ancestors may have done everything they could to hold on to as many resources as possible. And now generations down the line, you have everything that you need, yet you're still hoarding resources. And it's resulted in things like overspending and accruing debt, or even just an excess of clutter around your house. For some reason, you cannot get yourself to get rid of things you own, even if you're not using them. That's just an example. Just an example. But for whatever reason, it's gotten to the point where it's hurting you more than it's helping you, because trauma has a tendency to get stuck in a family line. Every couple of generations, there's a generational healer that comes through to clear out all that trauma. Now, the real question you might wonder is, how is Mirabel's family suffering from trauma? Everything looks great. They all have gifts. They all are using these magical powers. Nobody looks like they're suffering. But here's the thing. As we see with Mirabelle, the second she sings Waiting on a Miracle, she opts into her magical gifts, just like you will when you decide you want to do something new and show your family something new. That's when the veil lifts and we start to see things that other family members may not see. That's when your discernment kicks into overdrive and you start to see the effects that trauma left on generation after generation. And that those gifts that your family has are actually the result of unhealed trauma. That's why Mirabelle is the only one in her family that wears glasses and one of the few that can see the cracks in the wall before it's outed to the whole family.
The house was in trouble. The candle was... Abuela, I promise that's enough.
And the next day after choosing her gift, Mirabelle goes to talk to her sister Luisa, and she's starting to see her sister a little bit differently. Luisa is not just the sister with super strength who's able to carry the weight of everything put on her, but she's also the sister who's suffering from a crippling anxiety.
The magic and it gets worse because you won't tell me what's wrong.
Nothing's wrong!
And who's just trying to keep it together for everyone else. She's not just the sister who's the hard worker and knows her worth, but the sister who also has the fear of if her worth is only found in what she's able to provide for others. And the moment Mirabelle offers her emotional support for this shadow side of her and tell her that maybe she's carrying too much, that's when Luisa's powers start to fade. There's a reason for this. There's a reason why Luisa's powers start to fade and everyone's gifts didn't just go all at once. And that reason starts at the very beginning. That's because the Madrigal family miracle, the candle with the butterfly symbolism, was birthed out of pain, out of that initial trauma of Abuelo having sacrificed his life for his family. As a result, we see even a second generation later, every family member has a gift that's also a trauma response. And unfortunately, if you're the generational healer in your family, you'll come to realize that a lot of your family's strengths were created through the same. To explain this, we kind of had to start where it all started. Create like a family tree. Abuela and Abuelo get married, have triplets. They are chased out of their town. Abuelo sacrifices his life for his family and the rest of his town. Out of that pain comes the candle. Generations later, Abuela is telling Mirabelle the story of how they got the gift. We learn this story, but if you notice when Abuela tells it, there's a difference in how she's telling it to Mirabelle and then the flashback at the end of the movie. When she's telling it to Mirabelle, she's telling it like that was our family's darkest moment, but she kind of erases the pain from what we see in that flashback. Scene by scene, the first scene, she's sad, but it's like a, oh no. My husband sacrificed himself, that's sad. It was our darkest moment. And then the scene later, she is in excruciating pain. She left all of that out. And I think it's because she had no time to process that. She was stuck with 3 kids. It makes sense. But being that pain is what created their miracle, that pain never got acknowledged, even though it was the pain that built their house and that gave them the gifts. At the time, the result of that pain kept them safe, which is why I said that Mirabelle's gift is like her abuela's, because they both have the ability to take that emotion and turn it into something new. They are both energy transmuters. In the next generation, there's Mirabelle's mother, Julieta. She is the physical healer. She heals the community with the foods that she makes. She's able to heal broken bones with her arepas. She creates the expectation of being the healer. People expect it at this point. They are grateful, but they expect it. And then when Julieta has children, the gift of healing is passed down, but the weight of expectation doubles. And her children just follow right in line with that expectation. Luisa, who's the strong sister, heals through her acts of service. And she says nothing when the weight gets too much because that is what is expected of her. Isabella heals through beauty, peace, and perfection. She brings joy, and she says nothing about the pressure of being less than perfect because it is expected of her. It's expected of her to never miss a beat, to always produce perfection. But again, with double the weight of expectations that her mother had on her. Mirabelle also had double the weight of expectations placed on her, but Mirabelle had no traditional family gift, which enabled her to have to work through the pain of not living up to those expectations. as a young child. As a result, the descendants of Julieta only feel valued for what they can do and they can provide for their community, stemming from their mother, who was a heavily valued member of the community. You can definitely see the difference in how Julieta's children's gifts manifested versus how Pepa's children's gifts manifested. Both women had 3 children, like their mother, 333. We love a good synchronicity. But why don't Pepa's children seem to have as many expectations placed upon them? Well, in my opinion, I think Pepa is the emotional weight bearer of the family. Her mood controls the weather, which seems like a gift that was meant to teach her how to manage her emotions. It's not, oh, Pepa can control the weather. It's whatever mood Pepa is in is what the weather is going to be. Because as we see in the movie, it seems like the weight of managing her emotions is too much for her to bear. A lot of the members of the family have to help her through her emotional state, probably because she never learned how to.
Pepa, you have a cloud.
I know, Mama, but now I can't find Antonio. What do you want from me?
Unfortunately, most of those members of the family are her own children, which is why her kids' gifts manifested as trauma responses of having a parent with unpredictable emotions. But how? That's the question. I know, there's a lot to unpack out of this movie. Stay tuned for part 2, where we talk about how Pepa's kids' gifts are trauma responses and some actionable steps on how you can heal the generational trauma in your family. I'll see you then, and as always, I'm sending love and healing your way. Bye.